before you picked up that piece of paper and started reading the blah, 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 blah that we get from your department all the time, with all due respects to you, not your department, I found your discussion quite interesting. At least there was an engagement with the facts and the ideology and the ambitions around housing and what it all means, because you did say something quite interesting to Deputy Kennedy. You talked about the left-wing view of housing. And the much quoted Leilani Farha here today is not a left-winger, to my knowledge. She's a rapporteur for the United Nations, and her views on housing are quite similar to ours on the left here in the House. And they are that housing is a human right. And she, in fact, in her submission yesterday here in Dublin, called on governments to ensure that the market served housing need rather than the investment priorities. And she reminded states that they are first and foremost accountable to human rights. Well, I want to talk about an example of those human rights that I came across 2 days ago. I got a phone call from a woman who headed up Ballyfermot Helping the Homeless. And she said, "Brid, can you do anything? I'm outside Talagarda station, and there's a grandmother, parents and 4 children locked up here because they sat in South Dublin County Council offices in Tala. They'd nowhere to go. They were made homeless on the 7th of June, put out of private rental accommodation. They had been in 3 counties in as many nights, shifted from Ashbourne to Gardner Street to Rathdrum in County Wicklow. They were ringing all morning to try and get hotel accommodation and couldn't get any, so they went into Tala, South County Dublin offices and refused to move. They ended up in Talagarda station. A file has been sent to the DPP on the mother, the possibility of her being charged. And guess what she'll be charged with? Defending the human rights of her 4 kids. I rang the head of the homeless agency, and I have to say she was very helpful. She immediately got onto the family and got them sorted in accommodation in the South Circular Road. But what was most interesting, what she said to me was, these are the most difficult people to deal with in homelessness, Brid, because they're big families. I was a family of 7 and we were considered small in my estate. Most people had 12. This is a big family nowadays, 4 kids. And hotels will not take them because they need 2 bedrooms to be accommodated. So this family, I don't know where they've ended up now, but this family may be actually charged as a consequence of defending the human rights of their children. Do you not feel shame about that sort of fact in this day and age? Do you not feel shame and horror that we live on a globe that can spend twice the GDP on investment in property, in land and property, that is just used as speculation and investment, and causes the sort of human misery much worse than the one I spoke about, but everywhere on the globe, and increasingly here in Ireland? And I want to say publicly here tonight, and I'm using the words of the head of the Homeless Agency, because we have both agreed on this, to anyone out there who has been thrown out of private rental accommodation because HAP isn't working and because landlords want to sell up and they have nowhere to go. They've tried to access HAP, they can't get anywhere. I am saying to anybody that comes to me, stay put. Occupy the premises you are on. Do not go into homelessness if you have a family, because it is nothing but pure misery, and you owe it to your children to stay put. And Eileen Gleeson agreed with me. She absolutely agreed with me, because she is at the end of her tether. There is no movement or ability for her to be able to deal with the increasing and growing problem of family homelessness. And many of them are working families. And that should make us feel horrified, because just down the road from where that family came are 10 acres of prime land in the middle of Inchicore, in St Michael's Estate, that the community in Inchicore have worked really hard on for the last 17 years to try and get developed for public land, for public housing on public land. They have gone to see all of the agencies, all of the TDs here today were met, all of the parties were met. They're campaigning very strong. I understand the Minister met with them. I'm not completely sure about that. If not, having done so, he has made a commitment to do so. And they have presented him with a model, provide public housing on public land, and a major part of that will be a return to the public purse, because we will be able, under that scheme, to rent back to couples who are actually earning money, who are working but cannot afford to live in the lucrative private rental sector, the 60% of the planet's GDP that is being used for speculation and for profit and not for human need and human rights. And the ideology of Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil indeed will not suit making that change. You need a left-wing ideology to be able to make that ultimate change, and that's why this is an ongoing battle inside this society.